Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your divorce survival guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about holidays in divorce. Oh boy, it's a big one. It's a really big one. And, the first thing I want to say is that if you're having feelings about this, then you are human. And we all have really, really big feelings about holidays in general. But then if this is your first holiday since separating, or maybe it's going to be your last holiday as a intact married family, you're going to have a lot of really big feelings about it. If it's your first holiday as a divorced family, your kids are going to have a lot of feelings about it. So I think it's really important to just acknowledge that this is an emotionally turbulent time. Like I said, the holidays are an emotionally turbulent time in the happiest of families. But with what you're going through and wherever you happen to be in this process, this is a really, really emotionally rocking time. So I just want you to know that you're not alone if you're looking forward and you're dreading it, if you're scared, if you're feeling alone, if all of the things that you're right on target. And I know that sucks and it's gross, but it is the truth. Let's just accept that as the reality and then do our best to prepare for it. There's a lot of loneliness that we feel as divorced people in the holidays, partly because we might actually be spending time alone during the holidays for the first time. And it can be confusing and sad and lonely and isolating and all of those things. We've got to really focus on setting yourself up for self-care, whether that's in kind of managing your own expectations about what this is going to be, whether it's finding supportive communities, whether it's, asking people, look, one of my top tips for the holidays in divorce and in new divorce is to let the people you trust, let them know that you're going to be alone and that you're feeling a certain way about it. Ask people to include you in things. Listen, it's the holidays, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. It is a time for love and community and sharing and giving and generosity. People want to be generous. They want to feel like they're making a difference at this particular time of year in particular. And so if you were to say, look, let's think of it this way. If someone was to say to you, hey, I am feeling a little scared and I'm going to be alone on Christmas Eve this year. My ex has the kids. I'm going to have them Christmas Day, but I'm going to be alone on Christmas Eve. I know you and your family do something really special. Can I come over? I don't want to crash your party. Can I just come and hang out on your couch, at least for a portion of it? You would be like, oh my God, yes, of course, right? So find the people in your life who have similar personalities and and ask them, right? Because here's the thing. People want to be generous and they want to help and they want to reach out. And they are always saying to you, what can I do? Tell me what I can do. How can I help? And you're always like, I don't fucking know. Well, this is how. And so you've got to be able to name it for them. And once you do, I promise you, they will welcome you with open arms. And if they can't, if they're like, oh shit, well, this year we're actually going to my mother-in-law's. And so, let me ask her, or like, oh, I think that it's going to be awkward or whatever. Like, move on, ask somebody else. Don't take that personally. Okay. Really, 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 really. I told this story before, but like one of my favorite Christmas memories was a Christmas Eve that I had when my son was not with me. And it ended up being, there were like maybe 6 or 7 of us, and we were all divorced moms, including my mom and a friend of hers, and then 2 of my friends who didn't have their kids. It was the most lovely, lovely divorced mom Christmas, and we all got it. And we had such a great time. And I remember one of the women actually still will write to me on Christmas Eve and be like, I just remember that Christmas Eve. It was so special. And thank you for creating that. And that was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. It is a lasting experience for people. If you have others in your life and you want to create something new in that way, that would be so, so, so great. However, you need to care for yourself. Look, if you actively choose to sit home on your couch watching Elf or The Notebook or whatever you want to do, and that is like your preferred Christmas, and that's what you want to do, then do it. But I don't want you to be finding yourself sitting home alone with a bottle of wine watching a sad movie because you didn't think ahead to try to sort of protect yourself in this. Okay. This is a time that you can create new and joyful traditions with your kids and without them. So I want you to start thinking about what you want those to be. If you have not yet created your parenting plan, I want to just put this out there. One of the things that I recommend is that you try not to like flip-flop if it's possible, right? Let's say, so for example, in my family, my ex-husband always, like, Christmas Eve was their big celebration in his family growing up. And in my family, Christmas Day was the big celebration growing up. So in the beginning, it was really pretty simple that he would get Christmas Eve and I would get Christmas morning or Christmas Day, because those were the days that were more special to each of us individually. What that allows, though, is if there's consistency, you can create new traditions, right? So every Christmas Eve, if you know you have your kids every Christmas Eve, you get to create a new Christmas Eve tradition. And then on Christmas Day, if you know you're going to be alone, you can create a new tradition. But if you're flip-flopping back and forth every year, and like one year you have Christmas Eve and the next year you have Christmas Day, it's harder to create those traditions. It's not impossible, by the way. You can figure it out. It's just a little bit more complicated. That's just sort of one of my tips, is if you're still working things out, to consider having it always be consistent. Now, one of the questions that I get often is, should we consider doing it together and just sort of sucking it up and having a holiday together for the sake of the kids? I am of 2 minds about this. On the one hand, I'll tell you, so my ex and I did that in the beginning. It was the first Thanksgiving, and it was so painfully awkward. And it was just my mom and my ex-husband and my son and I. And we were kind of having a great time and we were goofing off. And then my son really started to freak out. And he was, 4. And he started freaking out. He was really upset. And then finally it came out that, we told him that we were getting divorced because we couldn't get along as a family. And then here we were getting along as a family. And so he was screaming at us to get back together. So us spending a joyful holiday together in the early stages of our divorce was actually really confusing for our son. So I do think that the more separation, I say this all the time, the more separation you can have in the beginning, the better. If over time you choose to come back together and create some, holiday traditions as a family, I think that's better because it gives everybody the chance and the space to create their own holiday traditions and new lives. The other thing that happened early on in my divorce was that I started to notice that like every fucking Thanksgiving or Christmas, I was cooking meals and my ex was like bringing a girlfriend, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? All of these like random, like what? No, this is not mine. There was nothing about it that felt like it was mine. And then eventually when my ex remarried, they created their own traditions, and then we would sort of blend at a certain point. Look, it's always complicated, but the more separation you have in the beginning, I think the clearer it is for your children, unless they're older and you can talk to them about it and it's what they want, by the way. If you've been in a toxic environment and then you're like, but we're going to do the holidays together, your kids are going to call bullshit on that and it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. So I think it's a conversation to have with older children, but I also think that I think more separation, the better. I will tell you now, we are, as you know, 15, 16, almost 16 years out. And my ex is divorced again. And even actually before he got divorced again, when he was still married, we did end up having all of our holidays together. But they needed a good 7-8 years of being together and creating their own traditions and forging their own lives before his wife and I were in a place where we wanted to do things together. And that was an active choice on both of our parts, but it took a while to get there. Those are my thoughts on celebrating together. And in terms of creating new holiday traditions, right? I think go back to your childhood. Like what things did you love? I know that for me, my mom always hosted an open house on Christmas Day. And so everybody would come over at some point during the day for cocktails and nuts. There were always those, whole nuts with the nutcrackers and everything on the table. And then she would host Christmas dinner. My mother, God love her. I mean, she was a single, full-time single mom, and she cooked a massive Christmas dinner for usually 20 people. I don't know how the hell she did it. I don't even know how she afforded it. And we didn't have a dishwasher. That was always important to me. That feels like Christmas to me. And so when I was forging my own traditions, I have now created a Christmas Day open house that I host. My friends love it. All of my friends in the neighborhood, they all come over and we have a great time. And that's one of the things that I created. And I sort of looked to what was important to me in my past to be able to figure out what I wanted to do in creating my own traditions. So let's talk about sort of co-parenting strategies throughout, right? Look, there are a couple topics, right? So one is gifts, right? We're going to have to communicate with your co-parent about gifts. And one of the questions I hear a lot is he has a lot of money. I don't have anything. How are we going to coordinate gift giving between us? This depends on what your traditions are, how you normally traditionally give gifts. But if, let's say, you do Santa gifts, right? I think you guys, it's really important if it's possible, to coordinate. Usually, if you're the mom, you have probably often done most of the holiday shopping and gift giving and just signed the card from both of you. And look, you can still do that, but you need to agree on a budget ahead of time and agree to share it. What I would say to my ex is, hey, I'm usually the one who did all of this gift giving and buying and whatever. I'm happy to do the legwork on this again. And Let's talk about a budget so that we can share it. And are you open to having the gift giving budget be equitable instead of equal if that's what you have? Like if you're in an equitable distribution state and you are sharing expenses, let's say 70-30 based on income, are you cool to do 70-30 for the gift giving? And what's the budget? Like, what are we talking about here? This should be a conversation, and it should be like a corporate, email or text. If you're somewhat high conflict, if things are difficult, you can start this off by saying, listen, in the spirit of the holidays and in the spirit of collaboration and communication for the sake of our children, I just want to open up a dialogue about gifts. How do you want to do this? Here's an idea that I have. What do you think? And if they come back, like a raving asshole, then you shut it down and say, okay, it seems to me that you don't want to coordinate on this. I'll just take care of things myself, and you can take care of things yourself. And then that's what you do. But hopefully you'll be able to coordinate, and, all the gifts from Santa you guys are sharing. And then look, if there are little things that you want to get on your own and little things that they want to get on their own for the kids, then great. But like the main present or two should be shared, so that it's not a contest and a one-upmanship, which can happen so often. I think we've already covered the idea of scheduling and sort of like if you can, have Christmas Eve or versus Christmas Day, or if Hanukkah, do you do 4 and 4? Like who's, are you just lighting the Hanukkah candles, on your parenting days that you normally would have? And I think that makes sense. Here's the thing. I think that during the holidays, especially, flexibility and compromise are going to be key. You're going to need to stick to your co-parenting agreement. But if your in-laws, your ex-in-laws are in town and it's not your co-parents' day, but they want to take your kids to the mall, yes, that's for your kids, right? Remember, your parenting time is not my time and their time. It's your kids' time. If it's no skin off your ass, really, other than like, now we have time, right? Then, it's my time and you're infringing on my time. And are you going to pay me for that? Like, what that's not about your kids. That's not child-centered. Okay. So flexibility and compromise. And by the way, you can be flexible and you can compromise even if they are not going to. So if they're asking you for things that they're not willing to give you, you give it to them because it's what's right for your kids, even if that that they're not going to show you the same courtesy. Just because we're just not doing this. Like, we are opting out of tit for tat. We're opting out of competition. We're opting out of, you did this, and so I'm not going to do that, or whatever. Like, God, let's grow up. Okay. We are focusing on what's best for the kids. We're going to prioritize their happiness. We are going to keep the kids at the center of all of the holiday decisions. We are going to try to create something that is, maybe new, but it's also stable. It's also consistent. Maybe it has something to do with the old and creating the new. I always love the idea of engaging your children in the process. Hey, we're going to create some new traditions. What do you guys want? Right? So start talking about it now. Things are going to be different this year. Let's have fun. What do you guys want to do? How do you want this to feel and look? And what are some things that we used to do as a family that you want to still do? What are some things that we used to do that you think suck? Right? Look, if your kids are like, I just want to go out for Chinese and go to the movies, right? Then great. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe that's your new tradition, and it's okay. What is better at the holidays than seeing your kids happy? Literally nothing. My son this year, he was like, Mom, I'm so tired. He's like, I like our ornaments and they're cool. And we love getting them all out every year and like, oh, remember this guy? And oh yeah, that guy and all of that stuff, right? But then this year he was like, I want to do a themed tree. So like maybe this year we're going to do a themed tree. I don't know. But if that's what he wants to do, hell yeah. And he might be going off to college next year. So this might be the last time that not the last time that he's home for Christmas, obviously, but it's like his last kid Christmas, maybe. He's 19. He's not a kid, but you know what I mean. So we're going to let him do what he wants to do in terms of, decorating for the holidays. The other thing is that we're going to really, really, really empower your kids to share their feelings about it, because while we're busy trying to make everything perfect and we're going to have so much happiness and joy and we're going to be happy no matter what, God damn it, they're having feelings about it. And so it's important for us to keep the lines of communication open about how they're feeling. And if they're sad, like, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to change it. We don't have to undo it. We don't have to make it different. We don't have, it's okay. They get to be sad. And then we can, we just hear them, right? We just hear them and we sit in that with them. And I'm sad too. And it's confusing. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together and as a family and a little bit separately and all of the things, right? I don't want you adding too much stress in trying to make this perfect and wonderful, right? Because here's the deal. You're going to do things this year that are going to feel shitty in the moment. And all that is an opportunity for you to go, yep, we're not doing that again next year. So what I love to do is I keep notes in my phone, my notes app, and I write notes about like, okay, next year, don't do this, don't do, make sure that, you have, because I would like forget the time that I wanted to do my open house. And so now I have it like in my notes app, like this is the best time. This was the worst time. Don't make a cheese platter or don't make crudité. Nobody eats it. Like, things like that. In terms of traditions and things that you're going to do with your kids, you're going to keep track. If something falls flat and doesn't work, write it down and make sure you save it so that you remember next year. And then I want you to be prepared for some potential challenges, right? I want you to feel like, how are you going to handle last minute changes, right? If plans fall through or disagreements happen, that's where I want you to bring back that sort of flexibility and compromise. Like, okay, have a backup plan, have somebody that you can call last minute and be like, oh my God, can I come over because everything just fell apart? Keeping yourself in a sort of Zen state through the holidays is probably like an almost impossible task. But if you can just keep yourself in the mindset of, say, the serenity prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if you are in that space of, okay, this happened and I'm leaning into acceptance, I can't change it. There's nothing I can do to change it. So I'm just going to, have the serenity to accept it. And if you can stay in that state, you're going to have a far better holiday season overall, probably a better life. That's a life tip. And then if things come up in front of the children, around the children, I just want you to remember to not pick up the rope and say things like, why don't we talk about this when what can I call you later when the kids are in bed? I really want to talk about this. I really think, this is obviously a problem that we need to solve. Why don't we talk later when the kids aren't around? Keep that boundary of not talking about things with, troubles or conflict with your ex or soon to be ex in front of the kids or with the kids, because good God, they don't need that. They really don't. So really the important things here, emotionally prepare for this new space, collaborate as effectively as you can with your co-parent, make decisions that prioritize the children. Oh, one of the things that I also want to say about prioritizing the children is I am not a fan, and people do recommend this, but I am not a fan of splitting the day with the kids. I don't want your children to be like, well, we have to split, Christmas Eve down the middle, or we have to Christmas Day down the middle. Thanksgiving, we're going to do half of the day with my family and half of the day with your family. The kids are going to be ripped out of a party. They're going to be basically picked up in the middle of a party and taken to another party. And like, maybe that's not the best for them. Maybe that's for you. Maybe that's for your ex. Maybe it's okay for you to spend Christmas Day alone or with other people without your children so that they can enjoy a full Christmas Day with their other parent if you've had Christmas Eve and you've done all of your celebrating together. One of the things that I do, and I've always done with my ex, is that because he has other kids at his house, now only one other, but there used to be 5 of them, 3 kids, when he was remarried. I would always ask that if he had if my son spent Christmas Eve with him, that at least at the end of the night he would bring him home to me so that I could wake up, not wake up alone on Christmas morning, because that sucked. But you know what? Some days I did wake up alone on Christmas morning and it was fine. And then my ex would bring my son over, or I would go pick him up and it was fine. But if you're going to wake up on Christmas morning alone, and you just might, and that's a thing for you, and that's, a special time, then find something nice for yourself. Make sure you have your bagels and lox that you like, or take your dog for a special walk. Something, again, looking at how to take care of yourself and make sure that you are comforted and taken care of on a day that might feel really kind of sad and a bit forlorn. And then, right, you can lean into that, and then we're going to shift, and you're going to have other plans so that you are going to prepare yourself. You're going to prepare yourself to find new joy. This is all new, and it's okay. So if you are about to go into the holidays as a newly single person, or if you're about to face your last holidays together, there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of emotional stuff. You are not going to get it right the first time, but you're going to think about this as a journey to creating something new for yourself and your children as the years go on. And just remember that holidays before divorce weren't a cakewalk either. Right? We always have this weird idea of how special and amazing it's all going to be, and it never is. So it might not just be the divorce, it might just be the holiday season. So, my loves, with that, I just want to say I love and adore you, and you're going to get through this. I'm releasing this episode early in the month of December so that you can create this for yourself and just take some time to plan and create. 2 little pieces of information I want to make sure you have. The first is that if you want your questions answered by me in the next Q&A episode that we do, submit your questions at kateanthony.com/questions. That's kateanthony.com/questions, and that'll take you to a Google form. And the other thing is that I want to make sure you are aware of my upcoming retreat, which is April 24th through 27th in Sedona, Arizona. It is for women going through divorce, and in the healing heart of Sedona, you're going to have the space to rest, recover, and reconnect with yourself. Again, that's April 24th through 27th in Sedona, Arizona. And you can find out more information and register at kateanthony.com/unbreakable.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.